How you doing? How you been? What's going on? What's good? How you getting it in? Body getting it funny. What's going on, people?
As of February the 6th, 2017, Chanel Lewis, 20 years old, accused of killing jogger Karina Vetrano. Now, Chanel Lewis, identified as a suspect in the rape and murder and slaying of Queens jogger Karina, has given detailed incriminating statements and admission to the police that the police say. Now, the New York City Police Department says that Lewis of East New York is in custody, according to ABC New York. Lewis was formally charged with the murder in the second degree on February the 5th. News broke that the suspect was in custody on February the 4th. CBS Local reported through sources that police believe they have solid evidence against him, including a DNA match. Police also say he confessed to every step of the homicide. Now, Lewis emerged as a viable suspect on Thursday in the death of the vicious jogger and internet blogger whose August slaying in the Grassy Parks area terrified New York City. Police quickly built the case. The news that the suspect was found in the 6-month-old case may bring some measure of closure, at least justice, to Karina's anguished parents, Phil and Cathy, who repeatedly giving emotional statements to the news media, even offer award in effort to solve their daughter's murder. Another jogger from New York, Vanessa, was murdered in the Massachusetts around the same time, but her slaying has not been solved. Now, the suspect lived in a housing project with his mother near the park where Karina was attacked, police say. New York Post reported that the suspect was in his 20s and lives in a housing project in East New York, Brooklyn, a neighborhood just west of Howard Beach, when Karina was strangled to death. Now, Lewis lived with his mother, Vetra Lewis, and was unemployed, according to New York Daily News. Now, surveillance camera had captured Karina's last month after she went jogging. Her beaten body was later found by her father in a grassy area where she would often run. Now, Lewis' father, Richard Lewis, 70 years old, retired elementary school teacher, expressed surprise at the charges and described his son as humble. Reported the New York Daily News would say that Chanel Lewis did well in school and once wanted to work in social service. Now, according to NBC News, several awards, including 3 for academy achievements and 2 for honor rolls, decorated a section of walls of Lewis' childhood home. Now, in the center of the awards is Lewis Middle School diploma. Now, the television station quoted Lewis' father as saying his son was hospitalized in October after being attacked by robbers. Now, Karina was a young woman with vibrant personality who loved butterflies and travel and wrote intimate details about her life and on her blog. Now, the young woman was murdered August the 2nd as the jogger along the Spring Creek Park in Queens, New York, in a remote area that locals call the Weeds. Now, the 30-year-old jogger was strangled and possibly sexually assaulted, horrifying the community. Now, CNN said that Karina was known for her selfies and thousands of Instagram followers. On Instagram, she posted photos of herself out of town in France and even posted a bikini and running clothes. The site is now private. She calls herself a thrill seeker and a daydreamer on it. She called her blog a collection of conversation and contradictions and poetry conflicts. The blog is very intimate, look into the feelings and thoughts of the 30-year-old jogger, in addition to love, sex, and relationships, and imagined her own funeral and wrote about the horrible wrote about her horror over the Charles Manson murder. Now, second, authorities used DNA to find Karina's killer, who had no history of violent crime. The suspect has no prior criminal record for violence crime, although the police have had DNA from Karina's killer since the crime occurred. They did not match him to through the database. However, once the name emerged as someone to look at, police asked Lewis to voluntarily provide a DNA, which he did according to New York Post. Now, the police say it was a match to DNA found on Karina's battered body. Now, NBC New York reported that forensic evidence led the police to the person in custody. Now, Karina helped us to identify this suspect thanks to DNA we recovered through her nails. Previously, police had said that Karina put up a furious fight against her killer. Now, Pix 11 reported that pieces of the DNA leaking. Lewis was found underneath Karina's fingernails and on her neck and cell phone. And according to New York Daily News, the man who's linked to the victim DNA recovered her body. The Post reported that the police recovered the killer's DNA from Karina's fingernails and from the back in the cell phone just days after Karina's parents, Phil and Cathy, had a press conference to request that the state of New York allow forensic DNA testing, which is a technique that allows law enforcement to trace a person's DNA through family's connection. However, it also appears that traditional shoe leather police work led to the identification of the man, not an involving process like familiar testing. Now my baby girl Karina went into these weeds right here and never came out. An emotional Phil said at the time. Now, the suspect emerged at the police radar acting suspiciously near the park. How was the suspect zeroed in on that the police could take a DNA in the first place? An alert cop citizen helped break the case wide open, according to New York media. Sometimes before the suspect was taken into custody, an off-duty police saw the suspect acting suspicious somewhere in Howard Beach and called the local precinct that the New York Post reported. Now, the suspect was stopped at the time, but police found no valid reason to hold him and was released without charges, according to the Post. It is not clear exactly when the encounter occurred as far as ABC 7. The suspect was previously interviewed and canvassed on the area, but there was no reason to pinpoint him as the killer at the time. On February the 5th, Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce said that the news conference that police found on Lewis after reviewing the 911 call made from the area by someone who had said that the unemployed man was acting suspiciously at the New York Daily Post. The New York Daily News previously reported that the police had also combed through stop and frisk records, from the area. However, that helped put him on the radar as far as NYPD police then discovered that Lewis had been hit with 3 summons dating back to 2013 near the Harrowby's crime scene. The Daily News reported that the police worked on the profile of Lewis the past 10 days, reported ABC. Now, police believe that the attack was random and Lewis did not know Karina. New York police say they didn't think that the suspect was stalking or knew the jogger because Karina had written a very publicity on her blog and frequently posted beauty shots of herself on social media. They had speculations previously in the case that suspect might have known her. That wasn't the case. Now, the police say that they did not believe he was stalking or knew Karina. They said that the killer was likely a chance for an encounter, reported ABC 7. Now, August the 31st, police had released a sketch of a man they want to talk to because he was seen by the utility worker coming out of the park near the time Karina died. Now, Karina parents gave an emotional, angry press statements offered the killer, reward and confessed to giving to the family. And Karina's father, Phil, a retired firefireman, found her body after becoming concerned that she had not returned from jogging. He often accompanied her on her runs, but he did not that day. Now, Karina's mother referred to Lewis as a demon in a press conference after his arrest. Now, Phil and Cathy became staples in the media, angrily, emotionally seeking answers. They created a GoFundMe site, offered to help, the killer's arrest and stuff like that. So, and basically, this is the thing, they went by this sketch like that. Now, when I look at this sketch, I have to question this picture because I see someone else that looks like this picture. Now, when I look at this picture, it says black male, 35 to 45 years old, height 5'10", medium build. Now, when I look at Chanel Lewis, his nose is big. His lips are big. He don't have no beard. The only thing that they could possibly say as far as him being, as far as his sketch, is he's black. The face is not the same. The nose is going down. The lips are different. The structure of the face of Lewis's is more round. This guy's face is structured a lot more different. Now, as far as DNA, the parents are saying basically that he wasn't even around the time that this crime was committed and stuff. So, I'm just got a really, really bad feeling now. The thing about it that kind of bothered me, that made me do this video, is because this is what they do. Before you walk out the door and they grab you and they see the press is coming, they ask you not to say nothing to the press, basically because it'll discriminate you as far as a threat and it'll probably give you more years. Now, by the look of his face, he looked like he wanted to say something to the people, but he was too scared of the repercussions because he was handcuffed and he was afraid that he was going to be beaten. Do I feel as though they have the right person? Absolutely not. But I feel as though they're going to go on DNA. Now, the thing about DNA is that he submitted DNA to them and stuff like that. And allegedly, they did it the right way. I have to say allegedly because I have to be very, I don't know, it's just something I'm thinking now. If I give you DNA evidence and stuff to go towards a crime, and basically, if the DNA doesn't match, then basically I get to go to jail. Now, if I gave you my DNA and I walk away, you could take that DNA and put that to that crime if you wanted to and say I did it. And you could just bring me in on it because I already gave you the DNA. Now, the thing about it, I don't know if they met the DNA from her first before he submitted his DNA. I don't know how that works, but before you get DNA, I would want the other person's DNA before I do it because simple fact of the matter, you can always switch it around and make it seem like I did it when I didn't do it. But due to the fact I gave you DNA, it's going to be hard for me to prove it. And the simple fact of the matter is that he looks like he's scared as hell. He don't know exactly how to deal with that. But I would love to hear you feel about this one. And in case you're the kind of person who be like, well, Raven, they going on DNA. Let me just tell you something. Annie Dorcan, who was a state chemist for Massachusetts, pleaded guilty on Friday back in 2013, was served 3 to 5 years in prison. As many as 350 people have already been released from prison as far as a wrongful, chemistry. Because basically what she did was she worked at the drug lab for 9 years, handled nearly 60,000 cases, connected with sampling roughly 34,000, convicted based on samples 1,141 people that she did not have, basically didn't do the right thing in reference to that. She just basically just put that they did it and they didn't do it, but she just sent it on through. Now also, people whose drug cases may have been affected by Dorcan, 40,000 plus. Convicted, released from prison, state connection of Dorcan's case, 500. Years Dorcan was sent to prison, 3 to 5. Backlog of drug cases, the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab Drug Unit as of January 24th, 2014, 15,000 plus. And she gets to walk. I'm not saying this is the case as far as this trial, but it is something for you to keep in mind that everything is not always the way it seems. Anyway, I'd love to feel about this one.